Today I'm going to be making a chiller for my fog machine. For those who aren't aware, that takes the fog from your fog machine, cools it down so it stays close to the ground. So as a result, you have a nice low-lying fog effect. So for the actual chiller where I'll be putting the ice, which I'll be cooling the fog with, I am just using this styrofoam cooler. You could use a plastic tote, but as a final result, mine will end up looking sort of like a cooler store biohazardous materials anyway, so it'll work out, but choose whatever theme you want. I might try to disguise this a bit better later, but for now, I'm going to take some gray paint and just spray this whole thing with paint. Again, use whatever color, whatever theming you want, but let's do that. First, I'm making sure that it doesn't react with the styrofoam too much, and then we'll move on. And if it does react, you could use acrylic paint. That just would take a bit longer. Honestly, looking at how it's going on, if you do use styrofoam, I probably would recommend acrylic paint. You won't have any of that trouble if you use a plastic tote though, so you could always use one of those, get them from Home Depot or wherever. Probably easier to work with. So it's just about covered, but you will need several coats because it is white showing through. So, by freehand, I've drawn a biohazard symbol. I tried it at first, didn't work out. Used a stencil. That didn't really work out. I guess that one's just going to be kind of faded. And then I went back to freehand, and it's okay. But again, choose whatever theme you want. And the spray paint actually kind of does eat away at the styrofoam. So again, use a plastic tote. I'm using a bit of green to cover that up. So it could be like some sort of biohazard chemical that's seeping out. Doesn't look too great so far, but as long as this works as a chiller, which I wouldn't be posting this if it didn't. So here's how it is looking. I never claimed to be an artist. I'm sure you can make it look better, but I decided let's not waste any more time with that. Let's get to the more functional aspects. I want the fog to kind of seep out of the bottom here. So I put a hole. I just punched a hole through the styrofoam with a screwdriver. If the hole's big enough, I don't know, we'll see in testing, but if you're using a plastic bin, you want to just get a drill and drill a hole right through wherever you want the fog to come out. Probably do a couple here, a couple in the front, but that is how it's looking so far. And after that, to test the size of the holes and make sure they're large enough, we'll be on to the testing phase next. So again, if you're using plastic, just use a drill to drill through, but because this is styrofoam, I can just take a screwdriver and just push it right through without any issues. It's a bit more difficult because I'm holding a camera, but just like that. You can add some paint to cover it up. And one thing to note is you will want to make sure that the holes will not get covered by the ice that you put inside here. So that might honestly be a bit too low. You might want to do them almost halfway up, honestly, because you don't want the ice covering these holes where the fog would come out. Alright, so it actually has rained a bit and this held up well. A bit of water got inside. But now I'm going to be cutting a hole for this hose to go into. This is a fog hose. You could also use like a dryer vent hose. I forgot what they're called. But this is what I had right now. So obviously you attach the fog machine to this end. And this end you'll be putting inside your chiller. That way the fog can cool down and it hopefully will come out these holes here and stay nice and low to the ground. I used an X-Acto knife and a screwdriver again to cut a hole for the hose. You'll want to make sure that it's relatively tight. You can also use a hole saw or an attachment to a drill to cut a hole in here if you're using plastic, but now we're just about ready. Let's get the fog machine connected and see how it looks. So as the fog machine is heating up, I decide that now I will mention, even though this technically says it's water-based, there's still some residue here, so keep in mind you will probably have to clean your chiller out to get that kind of oily residue off. And also another note, I am testing it without ice for the first run, so it's not going to really be low-lying fog. This is the first test, and the next one we will add the ice. Alright, looks like we're ready, so here we go. Test number 1, no ice. And it's very faint, but you can see it coming out. Oh wow, that actually almost blew the top off. That's crazy. So it came out a little bit from the holes. Let's take a look inside. But it mostly stayed in there, as you can see. Definitely gonna need that lid to stay down, but that's kind of cool right there. I'm obviously gonna have to come up with another method to weigh the lid down, but for now, this is how I'm gonna be testing it for the next round. Again, if you use a plastic tote, the cover will stay on most likely, but here we go with the lid slightly weighed down. I mean, that's basically the effect I want to go for. It's fine if some comes out the top, but that was pretty good. Let's add some ice. As you open the lid, you will feel that it is pretty warm, and as you know, heat rises, so that's why we're going to cool it down with simply a bag of ice. You can use a frozen water bottle, ice packs. I'm not sure if that's enough, but we'll see. I'm going to let this cool down for a bit, and then we'll try it again. Also note I'm putting the ice in a bag because it will melt. I want the water to stay in the bag. If you have larger pieces of ice, such as frozen water bottles, that honestly might work better. You need a few, but let's see how this method works. It is relatively cool in there, but honestly, probably not cool enough. I'll probably have to add more ice or get dry ice or something. One bag is not going to be enough. It's just going to get warm from the fog pretty quickly, but with a little bit of coolness, let's see if that makes any bit of difference. No. Of course it's a bit windy now too. If we open this, the fog doesn't go quite, of course it's windy again now. It's not going quite as high, so it just needs to be a bit cooler. We'll have to get more ice, but for that we'll have to wait until tomorrow. So with the addition of a few ice bottles, is this enough ice yet? Let's find out. And just like that, finally, after adding enough ice, that's the key, and then letting it cool down, in the chiller we have low-lying fog. You obviously can get fog fluid specifically for that. This is just normal fog fluid. You also can get long-lasting fog fluid. I might do that, but there we go. The low-lying fog from my homemade chiller. So just to recap, there's the fog machine. It goes in. There's a bunch of ice in here. Let it cool down long enough. Inside your chiller, whether it's plastic or styrofoam, whatever. Design it however you want. But the key is the ice. And that cools the fog so that when it comes out, it will just stay close to the ground. Just like this. So, feel free to try this on your own. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.